Do you like Conan the Barbarian? Swords and sorcery? Dungeons and dragons? Blood and guts? If you do, then have I got a comic for you. Today, we look at Headlopper, and here is why you should be reading it. Headlopper is a quarterly adventure comic by Andrew MacLean and Jordi Belair. This creator-owned book is released via Image Comics, and that freedom is certainly what makes Headlopper such a good read. The book began as a self-published title in 2013 as a joint effort between MacLean, doubling as artist and writer, with Mike Spicer coloring it. Due to its popularity, Image Comics picked it up in 2015 for a miniseries, and needless to say, they have kept it going to this day. Spicer remained on board to color for the first Image miniseries, titled The Island. Following that, Belair came on board to take over for the Crimson Tower and the current series, The Knights of Venoria. Disclaimer, I actually met Andrew MacLean and interviewed him when he was at NYCC a few years ago, promoting his graphic novel at Dark Horse, Apocalyptic Girl, which I also really liked. This didn't really affect how I viewed Headlopper because both are pretty darn awesome, but if you want some more insight on his process, you can hear it straight from the horse's mouth if you go check out our video from that year. So what does a quarterly adventure comic mean? Unlike the typical comic that comes out once a month and is 22 pages plus ads if you are still buying a physical book, this quarterly comic means more pages, sometimes triple the amount of the average monthly issue. You may have to wait a little longer for the next chapter, but you do get more bang for your buck. The reader also benefits from the longer issues because it allows more time for relaxed storytelling, as opposed to a monthly book that may have to compress the story a bit to fit to an issue. Think of it like a monthly comic is a 30-minute TV show, whereas Headlopper is a feature-length movie. Headlopper is in many ways a throwback to the old Conan the Barbarian comic magazines by Marvel Comics. Those were equally large stories that span multiple issues, filled with gorgeous artwork, intriguing stories, and epic battles between all manner of human and beast. So if you're a fan of those, again, you're going to really like what you see next in Headlopper. So let's go ahead and start talking about that book. Headlopper is the tale of Norgal, an aged master swordsman who has certainly seen some things. Now, he spends his days traveling the world as a sellsword. He's joined by the decapitated head of Agatha the Witch. While the Headlopper may be stoic and quiet, Agatha is the Deadpool of the book, rambling on end and often bringing some humor and levity to the series. Each story arc brings us new faces that either join with Norgal or try to hinder whatever his quest may be. For example, in The Island, the story focuses on Lulach, a character with a very deep backstory that transformed him into the villain he has become. This guy wants the head of Agatha for himself and manages to capture Norgal and almost succeed. What happens next, of course, you're going to have to check it out for yourself. In the Crimson Tower, Norgal is joined by Zania, who debuted in that previous book, along with her new apprentice Zoe, and later Torpal, to conquer the aforementioned Crimson Tower. This is a place to become the greatest, noblest warrior, to have legends written about you for ages, and so on and so forth, but there's more to this place than meets the eye, and trials and tribulations to reach the top of the tower are the least of their worries. The current tale is the Knights of Venoria, and that one is also shaping up to be very interesting, since as of the time of this video being made, it's still ongoing. It also seems to have a little bit more about the backstory of Norgal, but I'm going to leave you in the dark about that series so you can enjoy it on your own. As the man responsible for the writing and the art of Headlopper, Andrew MacLean has really evolved in both of those things since Headlopper began. Looking on the older books, there is a clear influence of Mike Mignola in the art and color choices, but here now in 2019, it seems Andrew has really evolved with his style and absolutely made it his own. The writing is a nice mix between those great pulpy barbarian comics, combined with a little adventure time thrown in there. In fact, issue 3 actually makes a direct reference to Conan the Barbarian, so check that out. Being that this is in many ways an homage to those types of comics, one can argue that certain plot points can often be predictable, but to me, with Headlopper, it's especially the journey of how we got to those plot points that makes the comic shine so much. The page layout has a cinematic feel to it, and MacLean has a great ability to capture energy in his work. When there's crazy battles going on, you feel their intensity without losing sight of what is actually happening. There's plenty of books on the market now where they do the equivalent of a shaky camera in movies, but Headlopper gives you a clear view of every hack and slash, and does not shy away from that violence. That said, Headlopper isn't just a book filled with pages of guts spilling all over the place. Each story has brought us a little more about Norgal, while still leaving plenty of mysteries, and we also feel empathy for many of the minor characters who inhabit this harsh world. There are stakes in this comic, and while things can quickly turn into fight scenes, there's also an understanding that these battles mean nothing without context. MacLean weaves these stories and knows how to get those emotions out of the readers, while also giving them the payoff they came to see. The best thing about Headlopper is that it's only a few years old, And because it's quarterly, you can catch up to current events fairly easily. I don't know how long MacLean plans to keep up with Headlopper, but I would imagine there's going to be plenty of new stories for the foreseeable future. We still barely know anything about Norgal, nor his decapitated companion, and I look forward to knowing more about both of them and seeing where this journey takes them. So right now, you still have plenty of time to get on the ground floor, see what's going on with Headlopper, almost overnight if you really wanted to push it. I'm Matthew from Nerd News Today, and if you like drama, mystery, disembowelings, and a few laughs along the way, then these are the things that make Headlopper a comic you should be reading.